Hello and welcome to For the Franchise Fantasy Sports Podcast. I'm Rocky Brown. With me, he's got a new hit book out, a new hit cookbook, correct, Greg? Called Peas and More, Mr. Kraken.
Yeah, I'm really into peas this year. 2020, I was definitely into green beans, but we've made a transition.
And we got another guest here, star of Magic Mike 3, I believe, Jeff McLeod. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Indeed, filming was a pleasure, but this is even more of a pleasure. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So today's morning, whenever you're listening to it, this is our trade deadline special. Trade deadline coming up in a lot of leagues right now. Jeff is in our league. We've got, a 12-team league that we're in. A lot of people sending texts back and forth. Some people not getting back to you. So we wanted to talk a little bit about trades, a little bit of the do's and don'ts, and some other stuff. I'm sure we'll BS through this whole thing.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So
that's what we do.
I think that trading is definitely an art form. I think you guys would agree with that. Sometimes it takes, days to complete a trade in any league you're in. What are some of the things that you see from other participants in leagues that drive you just insane?
Lack of response. That's probably my big one. It's just and I won't even say lack of response. I'll say lack of continuing responses. Okay. Like you'll do an initial hey, this is who I'm looking at on your team. Do you have interest in trading them? And you'll start that beginning. Hey, we're gonna trade it out, and then 15 minutes later, you don't get a response for 2 days, and it's oh, I was busy. But for two days, you read it. You could have just said hey man, I'll get back to you or something, anything. But you don't because you're a bad person.
Sometimes naps take a while.
2 day naps, 48 hours.
Yes. My biggest pet peeve as far as trading goes is dishonesty. One of the worst things you can do, one of the quickest way to make everyone in your league hate you is trying to pull one over on someone in a trade. I think if you are honest in a trade deal, if you're low on a guy and you say, I don't think he's got this. One of the best things about fantasy baseball is different people have different views on the exact same guy with the exact same stats. You can both look at the same guy and say, I really like him going forward. So if someone else is high on somebody and you're low on them, that's fine. You can share that. Yeah. One of the worst things that you can do is try and make a guy seem like he has all sorts of value when everyone knows you're just trying to get out from under him.
Yeah. I think that, I recently traded Trevor Bauer, and I was up front with the guy I was trading with. I told him, I don't think he's going to pitch the rest of this year. That's my opinion. But, you're not competing this year. He'll probably be back next year. He's under contract. What do you think? And we end up completing that deal. And I think a lot of that did have to do with honesty. I know personally, my biggest pet peeve is a new one. When we moved to Fantrax, we have a trade block. The trade block has been driving me crazy. And I've seen from a lot of other, people that play in leagues, it seems like people take the trade block as guys you're just trying to get rid of. Instead of hey, I have an excess here. I think I put Aaron Nola on the trade block, and it wasn't because, I think Aaron Nola is going to be bad. It's because, hey, I think I have a surplus of pitchers. He's one that I think I can do without. I've got Gallen that'll eventually come back from the IL. So, put him out there and let's see what can be done. And I'll call out Dave here. Dave in our league, he had sent me an offer and said, 10 in any of my minor leaguers. And I think you guys know I'm in it to win it this year. So I did not respond. So I committed one of your sins, Greg. I think
that's a different situation though. I've had just garbage offers sent to me that I will write no, and I won't elaborate, just no, period.
Sometimes you're too far apart and you don't know where you're going to meet. You can make middle ground, honestly.
Yeah. That's when I traded for Vladimir Guerrero this year, and I traded, we have tradable cash in our league, and I traded 25 and a couple other lower end players, and I pulled in Vladimir Guerrero. It was right after I traded Trey Turner to you, and I traded Francisco Lindor to Nick. And the reason why I did that is because Trey Turner, I could not extend, so I needed to get something in return for him because instead of just losing him flat out and be like, now I don't have a shortstop. And Lindor at the time was batting 178, so I was trying to sell as quick as I could to get off of that contract that he has because he's going to be worth $40 next year.
Yeah.
But people took that as, oh, he's selling his whole team. I'm going to send him offers. Like I was working on other deals throughout that day, and I got one for Nolan Arenado. For $5 and currently injured at the time, Kenta Maeda. And that was it. And I was like, no.
Yeah. Do you guys think it's easier to trade in a baseball league or a football league?
Football.
You think it's easier?
Absolutely football.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, I feel like it's easier in baseball for me just because there's more players, I guess, more people that can make an impact. So
the only reason I'm more hesitant to trade in a football league as opposed to baseball is, I mean, obviously baseball has its fair share of injuries this year, especially.
Yeah.
Football is a whole different story because a guy takes a wrong step and his ACL's gone and you lose the trade instantly.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I would say football is difficult to trade in. You can't predict it. It doesn't matter. So I would definitely say football is easier just because people look so far into statistics in baseball that
that's fair.
It can be difficult to actually find the same value in two different guys.
Yeah, you're looking at surface stats and then expected stats, and
that's the big one on my end is expected stats. I think while the football season now this year will be 18 weeks long, with them having the 17 games, usually by about week 10 who's going to be selling and who's going to be buying. And I think it's easier to negotiate those trades because you're completely out of it. In baseball, week 10, you still got 20 weeks left. And you're like, I still got a chance. I'm sure I'm 2-8.
Yeah.
But who knows what happens these next 8 weeks? I could be 10-8 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I think that hurts the baseball trading aspects a lot. And Mitch, it's hard to trade with Mitch.
We're just naming names now.
Everyone
name a name.
Mitch, because at the time when I had no shortstops after I traded, before I made the Vladimir Guerrero trade, I was trying to just get Tim Anderson. I wasn't going after not Vlad Guerrero. I wasn't going after Fernando Tatis Jr. I wasn't going after Bo Bichette. No legacies. I was going after Tim Anderson. And I was told when I offered Joey Gallo and $14 for Tim Anderson, which I think was an overage of what I was offering, I was told he won't even start on my team. He had Jurickson Profar starting as an outfielder.
That's
and fair. I was like, you're not going to start him over Profar, who he ended up cutting, and Joey Gallo's an all-star and now has 24 home runs.
Yeah, that's fair.
And who now also has more points than Tim Anderson.
Yeah. I would just like to chime in here and say Kyle sucks.
That's true. Yeah.
There's no particular
of our league, Kyle. That's
he's not allowed to talk to me until he beats me.
I just wanted to name a name. So, Kyle.
So we've kind of talked about a little bit of the things that drive us crazy in trades. What are some of the strategies you take when trading? I know personally, I try to keep a relationship going with people in the league. We'll talk baseball quite a bit with them to kind of see what they're thinking, what they're, what they like, what they don't like. So I think that makes trading a little bit easier. What about you guys?
I think that's a great idea and something I struggle with. I don't do enough. Talking baseball with somebody, just in general, keeping a conversation going is a really good way. I know we talk a lot just in our spare time about feelings on different guys who don't even have anything to do with either one of our teams. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that does really get you a good idea of where somebody stands on a particular player, a position, really anything they might be looking for, and might be a good way to work out a trade between the two of you.
I have a prayer chain. I put everyone's name on it. I make sure that I send it out. You don't know what they need in the prayer. And you know what? Honestly, when you're praying, it's not even important that you know what they need. Just to make sure that you put good vibes out into the world. And then I hound them relentlessly until they respond to me. No, in all honesty, I usually just I I see the players that they're not playing a lot because I hyper focus on people's lineups day by day to see who's in their lineups and out of their lineups. And I'm like, I think if this guy who is mostly a bench player for you would be an asset to me, that's who I'm going to go after more. Now, granted, I've had some bigger splashes in trades this year, but I think at least when it comes to players like Tommy Edmond, who I picked up and things like that, like he wasn't starting him over Torres. He was on the bench. He was having him fill in just outfield positions. And I was like, I need a shortstop. You have a shortstop. What can we do here?
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy.
And usually in a trade strategy, beyond teams, I'm looking for specific guys. I always scroll fan graphs, check out expected stats versus current stats, see if there's anybody I might be able to buy low on, or not even just buy low, but somebody I can target in a trade. Then after that is when I worry about contacting the actual owner.
Yeah, I think we definitely usually have the same strategy in mind to buy low instead of that pay high prices on people. I try to always catch people on a downswing, a bad week maybe, when you feel like the other owner is, right now not super high on the guy. Maybe they think the struggles are going to continue. Contact them. Hey, how do you feel about him? Like, what, I know you need an outfielder. What can we do? Things of that nature.
I also look at people who I see that like you can tell are down on their team. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to vulture them or anything, but just like a prime example, earlier in the year when I was having issues, I started out 1-5 and I was the 4th highest scorer. I just had the 2nd highest points against. Mm-hmm. And I know that people saw like, hey, you're struggling with people. Like who do you want? Who are you going to go to? And that's when they started doing trades towards me. My problem was I did that aspect at the beginning of the year before we started where I'm like, I'm not high on this guy. And I sold. Like Aaron Savale is a perfect example. I desperately needed pitching help come week 3 and week 4 when I had just a plethora of pitching injuries. Hitters were all fine, but I just kept having a new pitcher every 2 days get hurt. And I'm like, I sold a $1 player for basically an outfielder who is doing okay. Yeah. But when you're having pitchers get 3 to 5 points, you're not going to get a lot of help there and you're going to lose games.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
That's fine. You're ugly too, so if that helps.
Is there any specific trade experiences you guys have had, a bad trade, a good trade you can think of that comes to your head when talking about all this stuff?
One that we had until probably a couple of days ago between you and I that was mutually beneficial was the swap of Sanchez for Yasmani Grandal. Mm-hmm. We both had 2 catchers who were struggling to put up points. Mine was at the time, Grandal was batting like 155 and Sanchez was 20 points higher and still, 30 points away from hitting 200. And at the point of, sadly, Grandal's injury, they were about even in points from the time we traded. And I think it helped that we both saw that we had catchers that were not performing at all for us. And we're like, hey, I'm going to give up on him. I'm also like, do you want to just flip flop? Yeah. I think that was the most mutually beneficial trade I've had in any fantasy league, football, baseball, doesn't matter.
What about you, Jeff?
Probably my worst trade experience that I can in recent memory was also with you. It was Alex Bregman. You sent me Alex Bregman for Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber. I think James Paxton was in that deal also. So it was a whole package for Alex Bregman, and we've all seen how that's worked out. Castellanos has played for most of the year at borderline MVP level, and Bregman has been, hurt. It was 2 weeks after we made that trade in the offseason until Bregman's hamstring issues came roaring back, and they've just nagged all year with really no end in sight. I think he's still on the IL probably for a few more weeks.
Yeah.
So it was certainly not beneficial for me. Obviously, we've seen Schwarber, who was kind of a throw-in in that deal, and he, the whole last month before he hit the IL was just tearing up the entire majors.
Yeah. I'll go with a one that was good and bad. What were you haying?
I was going to say, I have, we both have rocky stories of trading with him. Mm-hmm. I literally have changed his name in my phone to Rocky who you looking to deal Brown? Because of how often he'll just send a text at 11:30 at night, like, "Hey, I was looking at your roster. Are you looking to get rid of Max Fried again?" Which has been a text that I get every 3 days.
Yeah, I check on, and I'm sure I'll check on Max Fried as our deadline is tomorrow, right? I'm sure I'll check on Max Fried a couple times before then.
But you're just really good at finding these little pieces and then getting better returns. Like Kyle Schwarber, like you got him from Jeff, you traded him, you brought in a piece.
I cut him.
You cut him?
No, wait, I did.
No, you traded him to Nate.
I traded him to Kyle.
Oh,
Kyle for Tommy Pham. That was the deal. Yeah.
And now Schwarber's hurt again. And it's like every time you seem to make the right decision, at some point that's going to stop.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is.
Hold you down and beat you into the dirt forever for it. But for right now, like, good job.
Well, one of the deals that comes to my mind was the one I made with Nick in our league, where the target was Cody Bellinger, and that has not worked out. I think he got hurt first or second game, something along those lines. I gave a 25, Josh Bell, who I was really high on, Kevin Biggio, and Trevor Rogers, which that hurts a little bit now. For Bellinger, Zach Wheeler. I think Kim from the Padres was involved too in that one. And Bellinger was the target. So it didn't work out in that aspect, but Zach Wheeler's been awesome.
Turns out Zach Wheeler was the target.
So, I mean, if I didn't get Zach Wheeler in that and having gave up Rogers, I would be really upset with myself. I think it's going to set me up pretty nicely too, not having Rogers. I think he'll have an innings limit like young pitchers do. So maybe that'll hurt Nick a little bit as he is right behind me in the standings.
Don't worry, I'm coming for him.
Coming for him.
Choo-choo.
So is there any specific players? I mean, this year's a little different. There's been a ton of injuries. So I don't think people are going to be able to work the waiver wire that much. So as their deadlines start coming up, I think our deadline's probably a little early compared to others, but as their deadlines start coming up, is there anyone that you, like in a perfect world, who's somebody that you would target?
Do you want to go first, Jeff?
Yes, let me take a look. My notes window went away. If you want to go, Greg, go for it.
I am a huge believer in Colorado Rockies players outside of Coors. That's why I gambled on Nolan Arenado, but I did keep the security blanket of keeping Ryan McMahon on my team that was taking over his position. I think Trevor Story, if he goes to an NL team, will be successful because if you look at the splits this year, the AL have a couple guys that are stealing bases. The NL have a lot of guys that are stealing multiple bases. And he's starting to ramp up those steals. And I think with better protection in the lineup where it's not like, hey, Ryan McMahon's going to hit a home run every 10 at-bats, but those other 9 at-bats, he's probably going to strike out. I think that's going to help him on the base paths. We saw Nolan Arenado, granted the average is down, and we talked about in episode 1, those road to home splits. When he got traded, you extrapolated his away stats. It was a 275 average, 35 home runs, 110 RBIs for his away 162. I don't have the exact numbers on Story right now, but I know his road numbers are a little bit lower. But I think if he goes somewhere in the NL, and I believe he would get shipped to a contender. I don't think they'd trade him to like an Arizona or Pittsburgh or something like that. But if he goes to a contender, he may be a piece that's surrounded by other good players that could just pop off in the second half.
My biggest trade target personally is Ian Anderson. The Braves as a whole have pretty much underperformed, as we all know. Yeah. Ian Anderson specifically, his surface stats are not great looking, but his FIP is still 340, still has decent underlying stats. The Ks are down, but he can bring that back around. I believe in Ian Anderson. He is a pitcher that I would be looking for coming into the deadline.
I have a question about that because of our league. Mm-hmm. Now, the way that it's set up, like he's $50 because we do a auction.
So head points league.
So what would you even offer in that idea of being like, I don't know what your money situation is next year going into the draft, but he's going to
he's certainly a half-year rental.
Yeah, so that's gonna. I don't know. Like that's what's so hard about doing the trades when you have people that are rentals and you have keepers and dynasties like we play in. Like, hey, I'm only going to need this guy for a couple months, and I'm not going to pay $60 for him next year, but neither are you. So what's fair?
Right.
Yeah,
You almost treat it like a guy who would be expiring at the end of his keeper contract. That's pretty much the way I view it. I'm not looking to send a ton of value or something that's going to cripple my team for the next 2 years. But I would certainly, I'd give proper value.
Okay.
And I definitely think that it seems like fantasy baseball is kind of going the way of real baseball, in that at the deadline, you used to see guys on, contracts for the rest of the year go for high prices. And now people are looking for those people under control for 2-3 years because they don't want to give up all these prospects for guys that are rentals that they know they don't have a great chance in re-signing. And I think guys like Randy Johnson, he was traded to Houston and didn't re-sign, and CC Sabathia traded to Milwaukee, didn't re-sign. That they're noticing we need to get guys that we at least have under control. Maybe we can sell later for something down the line, and that's kind of how fantasy baseball is going. I know I have a few guys that are under contract just for the rest of this year, and they are not getting any offers at all. So. Plus, maybe people just don't want to deal with me right now. I don't know. It's lonely at the top.
People are really in a salary league. They're just terrified of big contracts. It's natural. I think everybody's like that. I'm like that. But circling back to the Bregman trade, I took on a pretty sizable contract with Bregman, and right now that's looking a little questionable heading into next year. So we'll see how the hammies come around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the good thing that I did this year was trade away those pieces that were expensive and kept the ones that are expired. I could have kept Trey Turner, but I know that with what his statistics are this year and how good he was playing at the time when I traded him to you, I didn't want to have just a $23 player that I let go. Yeah. I know that Nolan Arenado is a harder sell to other people because he is $40 and he's not extendable. So next year, he's going to be in the draft pool. So I that's why I'm kind of stuck with him and holding on and being I know he's playing well. I know he has protection with Goldschmidt in the lineup. But I know that the offers that I'm going to get for him isn't something I'm comfortable with now that I'm in that 4-3 in between playoff slot. I want to have at least somebody who's of quality to help me in the playoffs, maybe because I'm going to have to probably play you, and that's going to suck.
I think guys that I'm looking at the deadline, if I'm not competing, I'm looking at those guys that were, in dynasty leagues or keeper leagues, looking at those guys that are on the injured reserve. Maybe there's somebody that has a Chris Sale, pick them up, on the waiver wire. Somebody that you could probably keep cheap next year, like a Justin Verlander. If you're not competing, grab these guys. I would stay away from Soroka, but some of these injured guys can really help out next year. Even Eloy Jimenez, somebody that he might not be back till August. If then, I know the injury concern is quite high. Having read some columns on The Athletic this week. But yeah, these guys that can help out next year if you're not competing. And even if you are, a guy like Chris Sale who might be back before too long, if you're really struggling with pitching this year, maybe he's somebody you take a chance on. That, and that's for guys that are, probably fringe playoff teams. Take a chance on those type of guys that, okay, maybe he'll come back, pitch 4 and 5 innings for a couple starts, but if I don't have anything better, worth the risk.
Yeah, I'd rather have a 4-inning start from Chris Sale than a 6-inning clunker from Matt Shoemaker. You know what I'm saying? I would take that chance.
Tyler Anderson or something.
Yeah. I'd rather take a chance on a guy who's known to have a wipeout slider and get a lot of strikeouts and maybe only pitch 4 innings, but get 8 Ks. I'm sorry, as my voice went out.
Strikeouts are king. Moving on to the weekly hot players. Got a few written down for everybody here. Javier Baez, 3 home runs, a 428 average, 7 RBIs in the last 7 games. Brad Miller had that 3 home run game. Pretty impressive. Not expected from him. Max Kepler, 3 home runs, a 400 average, and 6 RBIs. Franmil Reyes, 3 home runs, a 263 average. Had a walk-off, too. 9 RBIs recently. Trey Turner, 3 home runs, only 4 RBIs, but a stolen base in there. A few of those hot hitters. A couple pitchers. Charlie Morton, 14 Ks in 2 starts, 1-0 with a 2.92 ERA. Herman Marquez, 11 Ks in his last start. Mark Melancon, 1-0, 2 saves, a .33 whip, and a 0 ERA. He's probably the top reliever this last week. So, a lot of the ball's starting to fly, I think. I think there was like 15 guys with 3 home runs the last week. So as it gets hotter, that's going to happen. Those power bats are going to be really useful in your leagues. As I pause with my famous ums.
You can get Rocky's famous ums on eBay.
Yeah, Rocky's famous ums. Buy low, sell high. We do it every week, guys. Buy low, sell high. We're going to be doing this for every fantasy season, not just baseball. One of my sell highs, Javier Baez. He had that hot week. Overall, he hasn't been great. The Cubs are looking to sell. What's that lineup going to look like? I'm not too sure. A couple of buy low pitchers, Kenta Maeda and Charlie Morton. They might be guys that are cheap, as we know, and especially for us, points leagues, pitchers are king. They might be guys you can get on the cheap. If someone hasn't already done that, buy low on them. What about you guys? What are your buy low, sell highs?
Greg, by all means.
Right now, I'm buying any Arizona Diamondback player that is above the age of 30, because most likely they're going to get shipped to a contender. You're seeing players like David Peralta getting 2-6 at-bats every week and getting taken on the lineup for younger guys. Tim LaCastro, who is still young in his own right, but was once a top prospect, gets shipped to the Yankees. Like, you're seeing them bring up younger guys, get them playing time, because they know that there's no chance that they make the playoffs. If they would make the playoffs, I would shave my full body on stream so people could see the horrific baby human that would come out.
Don't win. Don't do
it. Don't do it, Arizona. But I just think that those guys will go to contenders. I would be interested to see like if they would ship off a Marte as well. Cole Calhoun. Like they got some guys that are coming up. And also look at those guys that will come up. Seth Beer is a big one that would take over like first base. That I believe, if you don't have a minor league roster and don't have people that are in hold spots, that could be a guy that comes up and has a lot of production because it's a big time power bat.
A particular buy low for me is Dom Smith. The Mets are certainly starting to come around. The talent's winning out a little bit. We're seeing him start to circle back around. He has a 261 average over the last month, 17 runs, 17 RBI. The numbers are starting to come back around. We saw last year he had a decent sample size of 50 games of playing at a really high level. We're starting to see that Dom Smith come back a little bit. He's a guy, first base and outfield eligibility. I like him. I like guys who are eligible in the infield and out. He's certainly a guy who I would be looking to get toward the deadline.
Any sell highs for you guys?
Tommy Edman. I traded for Tommy Edman at the time. In our league, the way our point setup is, he had 168 fantasy points. He still has not broken 200, and it's been 2 months.
So he might be a sell low.
Sell low, I guess. He's a sell low.
Yeah. But just sell Tommy Edman. Just
sell Tommy Edman. Also, sell Garrett Cole. I wasn't on last week's episode, and I know I dogged him the first week's episode. Garrett Cole, for Pete's sake.
I might be messaging you about Tommy Edman later today. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I know you have a story.
Who you looking to deal?
I know you have a story to tell. We can do a trade right on air. I don't care.
Oh gosh. I know I'm just looking for somebody that can fit in multiple positions. As if you look at my
and I'm looking for a shortstop.
We'll see. You're gonna need to up that offer a little bit if you want Trevor Story. I'll tell you that much.
I know there'll be pieces. There'll be stuff.
Nope, straight up. Edmund Story.
You also need to give me Yu Darvish from Jeff somehow.
I always contact Jeff on his pitchers. I'm just like, what will it take? This year he wasn't as willing to deal because pitching's been,
because he's a pandemic champion.
This year, my pitching's been bad enough, and I'm holding on to what little of it I have.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, you had a couple guys too that you were expecting to come back, in Mike Soroka and Noah Syndergaard. So
absolutely, and neither one of those has worked out, obviously, at all.
Yeah, and everyone was worried about the Nielsen Lamet, so I got rid of him.
We talked about it the first week of the show. Danielson Lamet and Mike Soroka. I did the comparison to Culpepper and Breeze. Everyone was concerned about Breeze's shoulders. Drew Brees is Drew Brees. No one was concerned about Dante Culpepper's knee. Dante Culpepper was absolutely awful for the Miami Dolphins. That's what happened with Soroka.
Well, I think you could have put Tom Brady in his heyday on the Miami Dolphins, and they still would have been garbage. But
That's pretty fair.
I'm leaving the show.
Oh no, we got a runner.
oh gosh. Well, to wrap up, Jeff, we like doing a thing. It's one thing that people can check out this week. It can be anything in the world. I don't know if Greg Kraken Jr. or whatever his name is will be back. Oh, there he is. So we'll start with you, Jeff. What's one thing people can check out?
Dirty Work. Dirty Work is on HBO Max, which I just discovered last night. Norm Macdonald, classic movie. Chris Farley. It gets lost in the pantheon of 90s comedy movies, but it is a classic. I would highly recommend anybody who has missed it for all of these years, go check it out. It's a classic.
Kraken.
I got two. If you have little kids that are into numbers and letters, go on YouTube and type in endless numbers and endless letters, and it's just like an hour straight of them just going over numbers and letters. And my 2-year-old absolutely loves it and will sit there and do all the letters with it. It's a really fun experience.
I don't have kids, but I am interested in that for me.
Yeah, honestly, if you like numbers and letters in general, you can do that as well. You can. It's easy to find. My other one is an app that I'm recommending. It is called Happy Wheels. It has been a lifesaver when I'm trying to get through, like in areas where I'm waiting for people for work, for what Rocky and I do for a living, and you're kind of just stuck in a place like waiting for a client to show up. It's just a game where you're trying to get to the end of the level on a Segway scooter, and everything's trying to kill you. It's nonsense, but it's fun.
Happy Wheels. Well, my one thing is I think our first announcement that we've had for the franchise fantasy sports podcast that I want people to check out. It is the announcement of our first league opening up, for the franchise fantasy college football league. The draft is already scheduled for August 21st. We'll call around to area businesses, whoever wants our business during that one. It'll be the usual one, I'm sure. But we are opening that up, and any listener can join that. What to do to join? You got to go to the Discord and comment in our college football section. Discord, guys, it's basically a message board. Just go on there, comment you want to join. We'll talk a little bit, and we'll get you in the league. I think we're looking for probably anywhere from 12 to 15 teams, I'm thinking. And I'm back and forth on whether it's going to be Power 5 or all of the, 1A.
USA and stuff, yeah.
The whole FBS.
Yeah, the whole FBS. Yeah,
that could get stressful. I like it.
But yeah, I think it'd be interesting because you have those Wednesday and Thursday games from like the MAC. People tuned into that. It's a reason to tune in.
I
do love MAC Thursdays.
Yeah, right. So that's the announcement. August 21st is going to be the draft. I'm wanting. We'll see if we can do it. I'm wanting to do a live stream of the entire draft, probably on our YouTube channel. We're going to start putting content on there. I know we're going to have a card opening later today, sports cards opening, a couple soccer chronicles, and a Bowman Mega. Just content. Content is king, Jeff. Content is king.
That is what they say.
Where can they find everyone on social media?
You can find me at Sobrzar. You can find Mr. Kraken at Mr. Kraken, and you can find Jeff by grabbing a pigeon in the park and tying a note to its foot and telling him to go to his master. And
they always find their way back.
Yes, they do.
They're smart animals.
The Pigeon Man, Jeff McLeod. I was like, what is that? I didn't know if someone was trying to join our Zoom or what.
Greg is actually the newest member of Migos.
That's true.
Michael Winslow over here, Police Academy, trying to.
This is a bus.
But yeah, we really encourage everyone to check out the Discord. We'll try to put that link, somewhere for you guys.
We'll have it on the Facebook page when we post the stuff. I'll put it up there so you can click on the Facebook page, which is For the Franchise. On TikTok, it's For the Franchise, all one word. You can find us there. It'll be on there soon. As soon as we hit a certain threshold of followers, we'll be able to have a website that we can add.
Greg, you got a nice smoothing voice. You want to take us out?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on For the Franchise, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.